Welcome back to Driven for Health podcast. This is episode 96. And with me today is Jeff. Jeff is a classic story of how the 20s, it was active in high school, and in his 20s and 30s got away with family and career. And then next thing you know, by the time he's 40s, 50s, like, hey, I need to change this around. And he did. And we're going to go through the story and how he has shifted his health and fitness. And it's a main part of his identity. And it's going to be an awesome story to hear about the demands of his career, the demands of his life, his family. Those are things that every person that I have worked with for 20 years now, and all the guys that I am currently working with the Call to Rise, the 100-Day Fat Loss Challenge, are experiencing as well. And so let's jump into our conversation. Without further ado, here is Jeff Weiss. What's one powerful thing that we need these guys to hear in our conversation and take away?
I think, honestly, we'll get into this in more detail, but I think start now, be consistent, and it will have a profound impact on how you live your life and how you age.
Oh, that's excellent. And the aging thing is super important. I'm 43 years young now, and we won't say how old you are. You look a lot younger than you are, right? How young are you?
I'm 63, and 63? I'm proud to be 63.
Still kicking.
I don't hide from it.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. You're looking awesome, and it's a badge of the hard work that you put into your everyday life. And now we had a pre-conversation talk about urgency and patience, and that's really hard to blend, right? In our lives of instant demand and constantly on the go, but then trying to have patience into that mix. How do you define that, Jeff? How do we balance those things out?
I think, to me, urgency is about starting now, and not procrastinating, not delaying, not deferring until sometime in the future when you have more time. And certainly I was guilty of that for the longest time. And when I was 48, right, that's when I realized no more putting it off. And then I think patience, important change, significant change, those things do take time. They take consistency, and they will come. And you have to be confident that if you put in the work and you really stick to a plan, the results will come.
Right. You have 5 different areas. You have your family, most importantly, right? And seeing the evolution. So we'll talk about them first. We've got your first career, then your first startup, and then now your second startup where you're working through. So, and your athletic career as well. So there's like 5 different things that you're working on with this urgency to start now, but also patience. So let's take it back to describe where Jeff was in his youth, and then kind of work us through that timeline so we can start pinpointing why guys need this sense of urgency to not wait till they're 45 or something to get the bad doctor's visit to shake them out of a 15-year slump of I'm too busy, or I have kids, or I've got blah, 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 whatever going on. So take us back, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I think I'm like a lot of guys. Played sport. I was a tennis player, played tennis in high school on my team, and played it in college as well. After college, actually did pivot nicely to another sport, in my case to powerlifting, and did that in a pretty consistent way for maybe 8 or 10 years, but then got married, started to have kids. We had 4 ultimately. And
I've got 4 too.
The last guy had on it's a wonderful number. And of course, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And
yes,
that really did come first. And I continued to lift, but without the consistency, without a lot of discipline. And over time, just kind of, got progressively more and more out of shape, started to put on some weight, and kind of just accepted it as that's just sort of how life is. We get older and we slow down and we get a little bit weaker, and just, I'm going to accept that with dignity and with grace, and I'm not going to kind of fight it and be angry about it. But then realized my dad passed away when I was 47. And when I was 48, kind of realized, you know what, actually, I do want to be fit again. And
real quick, can we talk about where the body changed? Because a lot of the guys are just floating through and they're just hearing this, but what are more, say, specific numbers, or what was the reality of the actual situation of, I was healthy and fit. Now, dad passed away, unfortunately, a circle of life. And now it's like, oh, shoot, this does matter. what was that? The physicalness of it? Any health issues that popped up? Anything like that?
I mean, for me, when I played college tennis, I weighed about 160 pounds. I got into powerlifting, got my weight up to about 185, 190.
Yeah, that sounds about
And
right.
then when I was 48, I was weighing about 226.
Okay, so yeah,
Um, and I think the
enough.
lifting in some ways allowed me to kind of hide the weight a bit and to look in the mirror and
Right.
think, I don't look that bad. You sort of
Right.
look on the parts that still, have some
How
mass.
tall are
And
you?
I was 6 foot. I've probably shrunk a little bit since
Yeah,
then. Probably now
right.
like
Hey,
5'11".
so 190-ish for 6 foot is completely reasonable, but 225, yeah, we're on
It
the
wasn't a good
overweight
225
side.
either.
Yeah, we're on the
Yeah.
overweight side now. So
Yeah,
listen
very
in,
much so.
guys. If you are 6 foot, 5'10", 5'5", and you're over 200 pounds, you are likely heading in the wrong direction because there are no guys that I know of in 20 years, unless you're just massive linemen, that should be carrying 225 at 6 foot. It's just too much weight ultimately.
It's way too much weight, way too much weight. And I could see it around my middle. There was just no kind of escaping it.
Right.
And actually felt really soft and weak in my core when I would get up. Like from an airplane seat, I realized actually getting up was a bit more of an effort than it had been in the past.
Yeah.
My cholesterol was pretty high. Didn't really have any significant health scares, but by that time in life, by your late 40s, you've seen enough people that you care about in your life. In my case, my dad, my father-in-law, others, you've seen them go through decline, and in both
Right.
cases, they actually had passed away. And you realize that there are long-term consequences for not getting mindful about your health at a point in life when you can still make some changes that will carry long-term benefits.
You hear that,
Um,
guys? There are long-term situations that pop up. You might be healthy now, or your blood panels might be okay now, but there will come a time that you will be met with some form of illness or disease, and it's usually self-induced. And certainly we can do nature nurture type thing, and yes, you could have some genetic history of that and be a hereditary type thing. But if you're literally carrying too much weight and you're actively choosing poor nutrition and not moving your body, let's get real. Sure, we can say that genetics play a part in, but you're exacerbating the consequences and bringing them to your reality a lot faster than they might actually happen. You could push off hypertension, cholesterol is just for another 10, 20 years before it actually gets you in a sense, if you take care of yourself.
and that's the thing that I love about this area, about fitness, nutrition. We do have, and it's not scientifically controversial. We have immense influence on
Yes,
how we age, the quality of our life, our health span, the period of our life in which we are free of disease and hopefully fit and healthy and active. We have huge input on that. And of course, weird things can happen. Of course, there are,
right.
rare genetic
Anomalies
cases
and
that interfere. You can get hit by a bus for that matter. But I think we have immense influence on that. Now, whether we live to be 90 or 100 or 105, I think that's where genetics starts to play more of a
of
role.
course,
And
definitely.
honestly, that part of it doesn't really move me all that much. I'm not really interested in
Sure.
the longevity piece. I am hugely
Without the
focused on the health
functionality.
span. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I want to live my best life for as long
Yep.
as I can, being able to do the things that I want to do for
Yes.
the longest period of time possible.
Yep.
I think that
Live,
really
live,
should
live,
be
live,
our
live,
goal.
live, die. That's what I like to think
Exactly.
and say.
Exactly. Very
That's
much
it.
so.
Let's not have this slow decline where your bank account is getting robbed by health assisted living, and all the
Yeah.
hard work that you spent decades building is quickly unraveling. And next thing you know, you're on you hope Medicaid will cover your bills, but it's not going to. So
And another reason why I don't like the longevity focus is it pushes it way, way off into the future in terms of, well, if I'm 40 now, should I really care all that much today about whether I live to be
right,
80 or 85 or 90? But
right,
if we take our fitness serious and our nutrition seriously in our 40s, it's going to pay dividends in our 40s. It's going to pay dividends right
right.
away. We're going to start to see changes within 100 days.
Okay.
We're going to see them
Yep.
soon, and they're going to stay, and we're going to really benefit from them, and we'll be so happy. It's just, I think the challenge is getting started for so many of us.
It's very much so. So let's take us back to the very busyness going into your 30s with business, career, your marriage, developing your family. Paint some of the pictures that would resonate with the guys listening in, because I'm 43 and I'm going through the thick of it. Oldest 16, youngest 10, three boys and a girl. And there's just such a demand of time, energy, and money. It's just
Yep.
$100 bills fall out of my pocket all the time now. Like,
Yeah,
should I
very much
work
so.
today, or should I like go ride my bike with my son on 3 hours? Technically I should probably work. The provider in me wants to say that, but also provider means multiple things of being a father, and my son is off school and he invited me to go bike. So I'm going to take him up on that, because that is something I enjoy and I want him to have a connection with, and also fond memories of us being together doing fun things like that. So
I can't think of anything better. That sounds
let's go
absolutely
back.
fantastic.
Let's go back into some of those times that were really challenging, and why the focus was taken off of health, nutrition, and all that.
And look, some of it I think is quite fair. I mean, when the kids were small, we had 4 essentially in 5 years.
Yeah,
When you've got a lot of small kids, I think 3 of them at one time were in diapers.
Yep.
You do need to prioritize that. There's no getting away from it. That wouldn't have been a time in my life to take up marithoning or Ironman or anything like that.
Your wife would not like you.
No, and justifiably so. And it would have been stressful if she had been going in that direction. I think there is a time in life where you really do have to just be cognizant of the fact that young kids take time, and you need to enjoy it and really do it in the best way possible. And that's fantastic. And as they get a little bit older, you've got carpools and you've got after school activities and all of that. And there's no sort of getting away, with a bigger family that's going to take a lot of your time, and that's fine. Yeah. And the time that isn't taken up with that, you're going to have a lot of work to do. And look, if you can fit in lunchtime workouts, if you can find a way to exercise during that period, just some amount, I think that's great. And I tried to do the best that I could with it. I think I could have done better in hindsight. But as the kids get older and they need less and less of your attention and time, high school kids are not typically looking to hang out with mom and dad.
Not too much.
So at some point you do start to have more time. And that's when I think you need to pay attention to that and really take advantage of that. And from my point of view, it's not just about your physical health. It is also about being a more energetic person, a better partner to your spouse or your significant other. And I think it's about being more effective in the workplace. I think fitter people have more energy,
You're seeing that now.
Yeah, very much so. I think it has extended my career runway, which is awesome. I'm hoping that I can be the person to decide when it's over, and not that I kind of get put out to pasture because I've, slowed down and have lost relevance and
usefulness.
Really, exactly. So hopefully that will be a decision that I get to make.
Fingers crossed, me too.
Exactly. At least that's the goal. We'll see.
Yesterday was Sunday. Today's Monday. I had to drive 2 of my kids to their theater practice, and I'm grateful to do that. But it also took 15 minutes there, 15 minutes home, 6 hours later, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes home. There's an hour. Then the bedtime routine takes an hour. So there's 2 hours. And then there's making sure that they're getting ready and then getting them settled. Then I have to make them dinner, and it's like 3 to 4 hours worth of time on a Sunday. And it's at 10 to 4. So it's kind of in the middle of the day, and I can't really necessarily get a lot done per se. Then I had client calls. The next thing you know, like there's no time. The day has been eaten up. I did work out with my son, my oldest son. Again, he's just the worker outer. So I was like, hey, let's go work out. So we came out to the barn here and did some presses. I'm excited. This is March 9th, the first day that I've had my barn door open, and now I can get back out here. If anyone's been watching the video podcast on this for the last, I don't know, 20 to 30 episodes, I've had a map in the background. The reason the map was there is because that's the most interesting to look at instead of a wall, a blank wall. And we love to travel, and that's why I set myself out there. But back out into the barn, looking forward to this. So busy. Let's go to the catalyst, the urgency part that caught. So we've got a lot of busyness in life, and rightfully so. The season of maintenance, in a sense, of just taking care of yourself enough through the child rearing ages so that you don't get deconditioned and out of shape, and then bad things start showing up sooner rather than later. But we had your father's passing, which is unfortunate, and but then that next year, what was the catalyst? So your father, what was the other catalyst that got you actually into the endurance space?
I think in the back of my mind, I had always been conscious that I wasn't really doing right by my fitness and that I needed to get more serious, and just kept in my mind putting it off into the future. Um, and So I think that was part of it. And then I think just having, watched my father's decline, and then his passing, kind of realizing that actually I'm not getting any younger, getting close to 50. I think those decades kind of milestones can be focusing for a lot of us.
Yeah, very
And
much
it
so.
sort of came together. And then I saw an ad for a running class of all things, the
Yeah.
goal of which was to prepare you in 2 months for the Veterans Day 10K in Washington, D.C. And in that case, in November of 2010. So I signed up for it. And, in my mind, I'd always thought that running was a special thing. My wife was a great runner. And
Yeah.
I'd always admired that, but I also always thought that I wasn't a runner and that I
Right.
would
Well,
never be
you
a runner.
identified with being a power lifter, right?
Yeah,
I lift heavy things, not necessarily go run and ultimately ride bikes and all.
exactly. And I had a good friend who had gotten into running, also a much bigger guy than me, actually, a former football lineman in high school, and had lost a bunch of weight and really gotten into it, had run a marathon. And he told me his story, and I kind of realized, wow, like if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. And he gave me some tips on how to get started. So between that and the running class, it really got me going. And then, accomplishing that first 10K, I had actually tried to run a 10K when I was 17, when I was playing tennis actively, thought I was in great shape, and ended up walking the last 2 miles. And it always bothered me. It always gnawed at me that I had kind of failed.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and
This is eating away.
so,
This is redemption, huh?
exactly, it was unfinished business. So it was a way
Yeah.
to kind of, rewrite the ending to that particular story. And then when I made it, it just was exciting. It was an exciting experience, and it made me want to do it again. And did that a few more times, the 10K distance, and then started to think, well, what more could I do? Maybe I can go farther. And
Yeah.
one thing led to another.
Right, right, right. Then where did it lead to? So start over with an ad, start running, get to 10K. Where did that transition into other endurance?
Basically, within a year of that first 10K, I ran a half marathon. A year after that, ran my first marathon, which was completely unexpected. I had once told a friend I was as likely to run a marathon as I was to walk on the moon. So it was an incredible experience, and it was a
Yes.
great first marathon. It was the Marine Corps marathon in
Oh
Washington, also.
yeah. That was my
And
fastest one,
oh, that's
fortunately. Yeah.
amazing! It's
Yeah,
a
yeah, it was my
beautiful
fastest
course.
one. Oh
It,
yeah. It's so
people are out
good.
there. There's
Yep.
the support from spectators
Hmm.
is wonderful, and
The
of course you.
venue's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God! And you have like a Marine second lieutenant salute you and put the medal over your neck. You can't, all in like underneath there inside of the Iwo Jima Memorial. You can't imagine a
Yeah.
more kind
Yeah.
of dramatic way, for an amateur
Accomplishing.
athlete
Yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah. Yeah.
It was just amazing. So, and actually, I did that with the intention just to do it the one time, to one and done, bucket list kind of
Yeah.
mindset, and then realize, you know what, actually, I'd like to be a marathoner. I don't want to just be somebody who managed the distance one time and then kind of got back to, his or
Right.
her old ways. Um, and so tried it again, did the same race again, actually, 2 years later, and then kept going with that distance, and then ultimately got into ultramarathons.
Yeah.
And when I was 61, I ran my longest one to this point, and probably ever, a 72-mile race around Lake Tahoe. Um,
I've done 50 and it's a lot. It's a
50s
lot of a
I think
long
50
day.
is actually, in some ways, I think that's a better distance. I did a 50 miler
Yeah.
in West Virginia 2 years ago.
Yeah.
No, yeah, 2 years ago. And it's a magnificent distance. It really pushes you incredibly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but I think the 72 was a little too brutal. I found the 50 to be more,
Another
uh,
marathon on top. I was
yeah.
good after 8.5 hours of running. I did mine in it was the JFK 50. It was about
Oh,
Midland of Pennsylvania and Maryland, and I actually went back and forth in the states. My girlfriend, now wife, was actually there supporting me. And I think she drove 100 miles trying to see me for, 30 seconds at a time, a couple of times in the race.
That's amazing. And that's an iconic race. That's actually an incredible one. If you're going to do 150 miler, that is the one to do.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular. So, oh my gosh, that was a long day. My son, again, going back to Levi, he's bringing out the young Brian. And there's a picture back here, right over my left
Oh,
shoulder
I see that.
here. That's of me running at a triathlon way back in the day. Yeah, 2003 was my first marathon. Then I went on to multiple marathons. I ended up running Boston. Marine Corps was
Wow.
my fastest at 2:56. I was fortunate enough to
Wow.
be able to break 3 hours. I realized that unless I was going to go exponentially more running, like distance wise every week, then I ended up shifting to triathlons. And that's when that love of that sport. So that is a picture of the triathlon. And then you can see right here my bike hanging up. That's my Cervelo P2 Carbon.
Oh,
And
wow.
I would race around and ride around on that. And then he raced on that bike in September and ran in my jersey that I still have. He looked like me out there. So I'm jealous. I'm really
Wow.
jealous. Then I supported and crewed him for the marathon. Really, I went around and videotaped him running by to make a memorable video of him running his first marathon and stuff. But I was so jealous when he left the starting line because I was down there and just all pumped, and I got like the dad tears coming out. I'm like, oh, I'm so proud.
That's wonderful. It's funny. I think a lot of folks talk about inspiring others in their life to do the kinds of things that they're doing. And
Yeah.
I think that is, if that works out, which clearly it is for you and your son, there's nothing better.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I still think it's an important thing to do, even if nobody is in the short term following in your footsteps.
Right.
And I do actually think it's a kindness for them because I think you're more likely to be there for them longer, and
Yes.
to really be there in their lives, to be a
Right.
participant, to be a support for them.
Right.
And I think you're less likely to need to lean on them later in life if you've been doing a good job of taking
Yes.
care of
Yes.
yourself all along. So however it works out, I really do think
Yeah.
it's not just
Any
about
which way.
yourself. It's
Mhm.
not an entire, there is a selfishness to it with
Right.
the most extreme sports. And I do admit that.
Sure. Like endurance athletes, ultras, so you're spending a significant amount of time training. It's the way it
Yeah,
is.
I think there's no getting away from that in part, but I also think it's incredibly important for your family for you to be taking care of yourself
Yeah.
in a
A role
serious way.
model.
And I do think it makes you better, a better worker, a better employee, a better provider for
Mhm.
your family. So there's a lot to be extracted from the investment of really taking care of yourself.
Yeah. So let's move into, so you went to marathons, yeah, or a 10K, half marathon. And did you get dabble in much triathlons?
I did. So I was cross training,
Yeah.
and I really got into reading about the sport, and
It's fascinating.
it
I,
is
I
great. And
loved it.
I love the stories. I love the memoirs, and honestly, that's why I wrote Racing Against Time, was to kind of try to be for other people what folks like Dean Karnassus and Rich
Yep.
Roll and David
Yep.
Goggins were for me, just
Yep.
inspiring me
Uh-huh. All
to do
names I
things out of
know.
my, yeah, doing things out of my comfort zone. So I realized, what, I'm cross training already, running, biking, swimming. I should try a triathlon. So
Yep.
in 2011, tried my first sprint. For a few years, did sprints, then thought maybe I could do an Olympic. It was kind of the same progression, or a
Yep.
parallel progression to the running, then did Olympic. And then I decided to take on a 56-mile ultra. But I was worried I wouldn't be able to finish that one because there was a strict time limit. So
Yeah.
decided to set my next kind of bold goal, audacious goal, before I set foot on that course. Either way, whether I succeeded or not, I wanted to be able to pivot my thinking to the next big thing. And for me, the next big thing was to do a half Ironman a year later and a full Ironman the year after that, and was able
Yeah.
to do those things. And Ironman's it's an incredible sport. Um,
Yep.
there's kind of nothing like it. And of course, for old guys like me who grew up watching Wide World of Sports, there was that
Yes. Yes.
remarkable episode with spacing on her last Julie Moss
Yeah.
in the World Championships at Kona in I think
Right.
1982 or so, where she collapsed within maybe 100 yards of the finish line
Yes.
and just dragged herself across, in total distress. But that actually really put the sport on the map, and it is quite a thing to go through.
Right. Oh yeah. I remember seeing that. And also, let's talk about the battles of Mark Allen and Dave Scott.
Yeah,
Epic.
yeah,
They
the Iron Duel.
uh-huh. They
Yeah,
they definitely paved the way too, because they just, oh man, I remember all those things too, watching those. And that was an inspiration for me to get in triathlons. Plus, again, that exponential amount of time to be able to run what felt incrementally faster, because I'd ran a multitude of races, of marathons around say 305, 310. And then I finally broke the 3 hours, like my 10th time through something. I was hoping to do it on the first one, which I was actually on pace to run 250. But then the course that I did it on has a nasty uphill elevation in the background, and in the back half, and it totally caught me, and I barely qualified for Boston on that first
that's
go.
still.
But
I mean, running a Boston,
oh,
and honestly, I'm not fast. Your times are mind blowing to me. Those are pretty elite times. Anybody can qualify for Boston. In my view, is
yeah,
an elite runner, and that's not me. Um,
yeah.
but I still think this, doing these kinds of events can be achievable for even back of the packers like me. And there's
Just
there's
get
still
out
a
there
lot
and
of
do it.
time. Yeah, there's still
Mhm.
a lot of time. I did my first Ironman at age 57, my second
Yeah.
one at age 59. So
Yep.
you're a young guy.
Yeah, I'll have to put it
And
back on. That's my biggest regret in my athletic career, because I was in tip-top shape, and I would have actually been able to race it competitively in my young 20s.
wow.
I let the $500 race entry fee hold me back. That was when you're 21 and $500 is like a half month's pay or something. You're like,
It's
okay,
true.
this is a lot.
Now
So,
look, and we have to be mindful of that stuff. I mean, these,
yeah.
sports can be demanding both in terms of time and in terms of money.
Yep.
But I also am a huge believer that in life, I think when we look back, the things we most regret are the things we didn't try.
Oh, of
Much
course.
much more so than the things that maybe we tried and just didn't work out the way that we had hoped. And
Totally.
I've certainly had some failures along the way, but
Yeah, we all
but I don't
did.
regret any of it.
Right.
And having said all of this, I'm not an evangelist for ultras or for Ironman. For
No,
me,
just
they've been
being healthy,
fantastic.
fit, move
Yeah,
your
exactly.
body, take care
Move
of
your body,
yourself.
be active, take this stuff
Yep.
seriously, be
Yep.
consistent. I love the advice that they give in the world of personal finance: pay yourself first.
Yeah.
So if you want to save money, take it out of your paycheck at the beginning of the month before you spend on anything else. So
Right.
for me, when it comes to your physical well-being and the fitness part of it,
Yep.
um, that should be your most important priority of the day. And for me, that means working out
1,000%.
first thing in the morning before my workday starts and I lose
Yep.
control over
Yep.
my time.
The day
Um,
goes crazy after that.
and look, at the beginning, it's
Responsibilities
it's hard to do
stacks.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You have all your responsibilities will take over, but if you can get into the habit of getting up early and getting that workout in, um, it's not just that you will have succeeded in getting that workout in, but you actually start your day with a feeling of accomplishment. And it really carries over in a really wonderful way in terms of
Yeah.
elevating your mood and really getting you just going through the day optimistic and confident that you can take things on, which is a wonderful way to live life.
Right. And oftentimes, if you do the hard first, it makes everything else easier. And the hard
Yeah.
being the exercise, the activity, and different things like that. So, all right. Excellent. Excellent. Now, next up
Especially like in
question.
really, in extreme days, really cold days, really hot days, and you
Yep.
you, you get that workout in, and you feel like, wow, that was tough, but I did it, and
Right.
I feel great about myself. I've never at the end of a workout felt anything other than really, really happy that I did it. Even if I started it feeling a little bit off, not excited
Right.
to get out there and train that particular day, I always finish just with a great sense of accomplishment.
Right. Totally. Totally. So now you're back into fitness, you're back into taking care of yourself. You have boundless energy in a sense, and in comparison to where you were being overweight and not definitely not as in shape. transition. I had another gentleman on, Albert, and he talked about the 40s to 60s is a crucible, a time where your parents start to pass. There's decline in your parents, and you have to take care of them, or they pass. You have the accelerating of your kids getting ready to leave, and they leave you. You're either making the best money you ever had, or you're looking at a career shift, because this is the season of life where you've may again be thriving, or realize, wow, I've spent like 15 years doing things I don't want to do, and I'm running out of time to do things I want to do. And you change. So what were some of the changes that happened around 50ish or so, after we get this fitness and this capacity to do work? What new roles did you start taking on as a result?
I had always, in the back of my mind, had aspirations of joining a startup. I had friends who had joined America Online, AOL, when it was a startup, and I just loved hearing their stories, and I could tell that it had really transformed them. They just were,
Right.
they were confident and accomplished. And I always told myself, if I ever get that chance, I will jump at it. And I was a lawyer in private practice, worked for big firms at the beginning of my career in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. But I was a practicing lawyer for 25 years, and that opportunity to join a startup, seemed like that was never going to happen. And then
Right.
suddenly, when I was 50, it dropped into my lap, and as I had promised myself, I jumped at it, grabbed it, and it ended up being an 11-year journey. It was wonderful, had lots of ups, lots of downs, and then ultimately succeeded. Ended up in a positive way with an exit.
Right. That's
And
what you hope when you get into a startup, right? It's going to be a
ex-
lot of work, and you hope for a big payoff.
although the funny thing is, when I started, people would ask me, like my friends, like, how long do you think this is going to last? And I would always give the same, for like 8 years, I gave the same answer: 6 months to 2 years. And I really believed it every time that I said it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the end that I really started to feel like, what, actually, I think I can see, the end in sight. Um, but, um, but I think the ultras, the Ironman, all that other stuff really prepared me for
Yeah.
dealing with the ups and the downs.
Right.
And,
So we
all
get
the
into the
things that
patient side of
the
this now,
patient
right? So the
side and the
urgency of
resilience.
taking action, and now we're in the patience of a 11-year payoff, right? Even the your journey of getting healthier and happier in your physical fitness and energy there, that took how many years to be able to get to, say, the Ironman level or capacity?
The Ironman was about 9 years after I started
Yeah.
training. So I started when I was 48, did the Ironman at 50, at
Yeah.
57.
9 years,
I
guys, listening in.
and I ran my first marathon in October of 2012. At the end of October, either the 30th or the 31st, and started my new job at the startup 3 days later, in early November of 2012. And I don't think it's a coincidence that those two sort of journeys, my fitness journey and my professional journey in the startup world, really went on parallel paths.
Right.
I did feel like
You were
the
open.
one, yeah, they
That's
both, they helped
probably
me.
the biggest thing you just said. Told the universe you're open to new opportunities with yourself, and they gave it.
Well,
It answered.
when I was getting started in the startup, I read a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins,
Oh, of course, yeah.
and he talks about, for the companies that have succeeded in separating themselves from their competitors and becoming market leaders. Said that they all of them had set a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, to be
Yeah,
number one,
right.
and it focused them, it energized them, and it really drove them to their ultimate success. And as I read it, I thought, you know what, you can apply that on the personal level, set your own
Definitely.
personal BHAG. And so that's when I started to set these more ambitious goals, to start running ultras, to start taking on the half Ironman and then the full Ironman distance. And it really did work for me in the same way that Collins describes for companies. It
Yeah,
focused my training, it energized everything, and it just gave me this wonderful feeling throughout that I was on a journey toward a destination that was exciting and challenging, like
right,
climbing a tall mountain. And
right.
so it's great to live life with that sort of feeling, especially as you get into a period of life where I think for a lot of us, our horizons become narrower rather than
Yeah,
broader. And
the
yet they
midlife
don't have to
crisis.
be.
is a real thing because all this stuff comes unfolding down on you of the time, the pressure, the responsibility, the all of this stuff. I'm feeling it myself, and I do take care of myself, and I am self-employed, and I am a very proactive person in a lot of different ways, and I'm still feeling crunched in this mid 40ish journey here, and I will persevere because that's just what it is. I started this podcast back in September, so it's been about 170 days, and I'm going to be eclipsing 100 episodes here pretty darn soon.
It's amazing.
So it's just this is an easy avenue for me to be able to express journeys like this, to be able to create opportunities for guys to be inspired. And your story is inspiring, hence why I had you on. So let's go into some of the things of the patient side of your first and now your second startup that you're in.
Yeah, I think again, I think the urgency patience thing, and that I basically came up with it when I would talk to younger colleagues at the first startup, that you really need both things. Your competitors are out there working hard, and so if you're going to be slow, if you're not going to have a sense of urgency, you're going to fall behind, and that's a problem. On the other hand, you don't want to make mistakes because you're rushing in a careless way. And these things can really take time. I mean, my 6 months to 2 years turned into 11 years.
Right.
And I also think it's important to enjoy the journey. I mean, I loved every day with that first company.
Yes.
And I think with fitness as well, you do need to find things that you enjoy sufficiently to want to continue to do them. And it may
Yes.
take some time to find those right
Yeah.
activities, and you
Yeah.
need to give them a fair opportunity before
Right.
you reject them and move on to something else.
Running
But
may or may not be your thing, but maybe pickleball is, or maybe it is turning into some form of strength training, or there's so many different ways to express yourself with your exercise.
yeah, and I think also another way in which I see overlap between the fitness and the work stuff is, there's this kind of notion in Silicon Valley that we need to learn from our failures, and they've almost fetishized failure. Someone in Silicon Valley wants to criticize this, what he called failure porn, like we've made it too much of something that we should celebrate, when really failure actually is not something to be celebrated. But if you do have a failure, you want to learn from it. And for me, fitness, sports, racing is a way to create the potential for failure in a very protected, controlled environment. And if you do fail in one of those environments, as I have, um, it's really not consequential, other than for your pride. Um, and then you do have that wonderful opportunity to learn and to get better. Whereas in the work world, you really want, in the best way possible, to try to avoid failing and actually to be successful, because there can be
Right.
such
Right.
terrible consequences for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, there are big ones, that's for sure, without a doubt. So, all right. That is tremendous story so far. Uh, I imagine retirement is 6 months to 2 years.
It's funny. For the first time, I can see off in the distance how that might be part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never retire. At least I hope that I never will retire in the sense
Right.
that I'll just want to play golf and 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 relax. I'll always want to do something. Writing for me has been a great second kind of, not, career's probably saying is too strong, but Racing Against Time is my third book. And I've been writing for years. My first book came out in 1998.
Okay.
And I actually write for an hour before I train every morning.
Okay.
And that's
Good.
something that I really hope to do for the rest of my life.
Uh,
Um, and so I'll always want to have
Actual writing,
activities.
people. He's talking about like pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, not none of this AI stuff.
Exactly. Although the A stuff is great. It's almost like having
Can
your own
help.
personal research assistant,
Yeah,
which is a
it can
wonderful
help,
thing.
but
Um,
the
and look, as we get
writing
older, we need to integrate
thought.
technology. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to we need to keep up with new developments. I think it's
Yeah,
part of
most definitely.
staying relevant. But yeah, no, I'll always want to have fitness. I'll always want to have writing, and I'll always want to have my hand in something professionally. I can see how in a few years, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week is probably not going to be how I want to live my life as I get into
Right.
my 70s.
Right.
But we'll see. I'll take it as it comes.
Yep. I hope that travel is going to fill my third season of life with my wife. Here, there, and everywhere is the goal
It's a
for sure.
fantastic way to go. It really
Yep.
is.
Yep. Yeah, we've traveled all 50 states with my kids. My
Wow.
daughter, she's 10. She's been to all 50 states, and we're
Wow.
working on all 7 continents. We're actually going to Machu Picchu, and the piranhas are going to go fish for piranhas in the Amazon here in about a week
Wow.
and a half. So pretty cool. Really excited about the opportunities that we give our kids and just make things happen for them. So very cool.
I think it's amazing.
It
Absolutely
is.
amazing. It really, travel really does broaden your horizons
Yeah.
in a very literal sense.
Yeah, very. The biggest thing that I've seen, the takeaway, just for anyone listening, out of all the culture, the people, the backgrounds, any of that stuff, the number one thing that I see from humans, we're all the same. We all want to live happy, healthy lives with people that we are close to. We want to experience joy and happiness and do fun things and create memories. That's the human experience. I don't know what any of this other stuff is that people think is going on. And if you never left the state or left your town, or you've only been to the majority of Americans have been to less than 7 states. So if you are that person, you can't say anything about other people in other places because you do not know, because you've never seen it. So stop, go see for yourself and experience what life has for everyone and how we should be expressing life and living life and being happy and all these things. These are really important things. So
Look, I think we want to be growing in every way that we
yes.
can responsibly do that.
Yeah,
And
very
I
much
think
so.
travel and seeing more of the world and meeting more people and learning from everybody that you meet, that's a huge part of growth.
Jeff, we understand this balance of urgency and patience now, right? And urgency to take action, but patience to see that everything in life is a process, especially if you're doing something worthwhile. And that's a huge undertone that you have given us in this conversation. I appreciate it with sharing experience of your life and how things have gone for you, and really urging the listener to take urgent action and not just wait, because waiting is the worst thing you can do in life. With that said, what are places we can find you? Books, like what's important to share about Jeff as we wrap up?
Thank you so much. The book is Racing Against Time, best obtained on Amazon. It's available in either paperback, a Kindle, or an audiobook version. I have an author website, jeffreyweissauthor.com. Probably the best place to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn. But yeah, I love it when people reach out, and it's always fun to talk about fitness and just how we can make our lives better as we get older.
Yeah, very much so. I love it. All that stuff will be in the show notes, so check that out. You can learn about Jeff's experience, his books, and through our conversation. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the listeners' time. I hope that you are taking things away from the guests that I'm bringing on. I'm literally sourcing and filtering the guests that I bring on to make sure that it's really relevant to the ideas, the shared experience that we are having here as men in our 40s and 50s and 60s to live your best version of yourself. And that's how we'll wrap up with this episode of Driven for Health. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me.
Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation. This has been great.
Wonderful. All right.